Okay, let me see here. Wow, that's a lot of hotels in one city. What's with all these new brands? I don't know how to make even a decision here. And every one is the same amount of stars, so I don't know. What am I going to do? Screw it. I'm just going to stay at an Airbnb.
Do you live, eat, and sleep the hotel industry? Looking to brush up on your game? You've come to the right place. Welcome to No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's #1 podcast with your host, Glenn Hausman.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to the No Vacancy podcast. This is, of course, your host, Glenn Hausman, coming at you. I want to thank you all for listening week after week after week after week. So it's so great to have you all here, and I want to tell you this is the first year anniversary of our show. I cannot believe it's already been a full year, and there's no better way that I could celebrate being on the air for 1 year than, of course, having back Mr. Bruce Ford of Logic Econometrics. How are you, sir?
Glenn, congratulations. 1 year of the No Vacancy podcast is quite an accomplishment. I remember when you started this.
Yeah.
And you said, I think I have an idea. Well, it certainly germinated into something wonderful. So I give you great congratulations.
Great.
On
Thanks
that.
so much. And soon enough, we're going to be having some more announcements. We're going to be launching, I believe, another show soon that fits in with all of this in a fun new way. That should be great. And Bruce, I think the best way for people to communicate with us is find me at Traveling Glenn. Read my stuff as editor-at-large in QuestX Hotel Management Magazine, and be sure to watch me on Here to Stay TV. Bruce Ford, what's new in your life? We're coming at you from the NYU Hospitality Investment Conference, one of the mainstay financial conferences of the hospitality industry. Lots of news, lots happening, lots of people wearing suits.
Yeah, well, this is the dark black suit, the dark suit conference of the year,
Yes.
No question.
I've got on my dark blue suit. You've got on your dark black suit.
Yeah, and it is it's a time in the industry when, people have been going full tilt for the first 5 months of the year. A lot of people want to talk about projections for the rest of the year. It's a great time to do announcements in terms of things you want to rebrand, things you want to launch. You got 3,000 of our closest friends here.
Yep.
At the Marriott Marquis in New York. And so it's often just a spiral of activity, if you will, on the 7 floors which we use here at the Marriott to have this conference. So always one of the top events of the year, and this year being no different. The weather has not been good in New England so far this year, and
Nor down here.
nor in New York, and so we've been suffering from a little bit of not a nice weekend syndrome, but I hear it's going to be 85 this weekend. So
Well, I really hope so, and
exciting.
I've got a lot of bad weather malaise going on with me right now. But there is something I'm a little bit more concerned about, and for those of you folks that have listened to me and read my stuff over the last number of years, I'm a big believer in what I call the sushi theory of that hospitality industry. You follow the amount of raw shrimp and sushi and all of that kind of stuff, and the higher quality, the more piece selection, and the abundance of it, to me, shows the state of the industry. Now, I did not make the Sunday night cocktail party, Bruce Ford. I had a prior
There was no
engagement,
sushi.
and there was no sushi. Multiple people came up to me and told me that they are very concerned that the hospitality industry, the bottom is about to fall out because of this.
Well, I have my own monitor on that, Glenn, and that's the number of parties that were available to attend last night.
Well,
And
thank God at the Hard
that
Rock
number
party,
was 11.
Yeah. and thank God at the Hard Rock party last night, they had plenty of sushi out there, which was terrific.
And the pulled pork with coleslaw, which was also very nice.
Ooh, I missed that.
No.
Oh, dang it. But we're not here to talk about pulled pork with coleslaw or sushi. We're here to talk about all the news that's been happening. And I'll tell you, Bruce, forget all the prognosticators over there talking about what inning of the game that we're in, and
Or the difference between cricket and baseball and how that would affect the innings.
Right, all of that kind of stuff. I can't deal with it. It's to me, it's verbal effluvia, I think would be the term.
Love it.
For it, right? Just, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything to me. That's why I like to focus on the sushi system. I think it's much more reliable, much better than worrying about sporting events and stuff like that. But we got lots of news that was breaking at this event. It seems like this is the time that everyone saves up all their news for the second half of the year and throws it out there.
Well, there was certainly lots of announcements, although I did also hear there was a couple that were held back because the clutter was so great with all the announcements that were coming.
And good for them for doing that, because one of the things that I found on the hospitality, quote unquote, journalism side of things is that sometimes it's just too much. And PR people are starting to get smarter and understand that if they just put it off a little bit, then they could create a little bit more excitement around the announcement at the appropriate time.
For sure. And there's only so many words that will be written on a weekly, and really, I think we see articles for a solid 5 or 6 weeks up until the holiday about what everybody saw and heard and digested at the NYU conference. This is, I think, my 16th or 17th, Glenn, that I've actually been to, and it's the 39th annual event. So you got a lot of tradition here, if you will, in terms of how it all goes. Great interviews, Sebastian Bazan won the Silver Plate Award, Stephen W. Brenner Silver Plate Award this year, and probably made one of the most compelling comments you've heard in a long time.
Yeah.
Where he said that, years ago it was people wanted money well spent, and now people want time well lived.
Yeah.
And that is so customer-centric. I really enjoyed that comment.
And also, he added throughout that that in order to provide these experiences, you can't really stick to the script, so to speak, right? You got to be a little bit more open in your terms of connecting with the guest. And his comments really mirror, I think, everything that we've seen that's happening in the hospitality industry in the last number of years as we've shifted to a more customer-centric model with hyperlocalization and all of that. But one of the big things that came out of this conference, I think, Bruce, was all of these new brand announcements and a couple of ones that weren't announced that we said were going to be held back. So
sure. And we went to the Hard Rock event last night, and they announced a new select service brand called Reverb by Hard Rock, which I think will be a pretty exciting concept. I think, obviously Hard Rock has its niche of client, niche of customer. They have successful resorts in many locations, and they're now going to look to do something that's a little bit more of a resort concept, but in more of a select service box, which will be interesting.
And it's also not going to be rock and roll. So
No.
I don't want anyone to get confused thinking, it's going to be rock and roll hotel light. It's a totally different kind of concept. What I like about the concept is it's geared more towards the creators, right?
Yep.
So they're taking the whole idea of that rock and roll lifestyle, kind of turning it on its head, to use a very popular cliche right there, and getting to the essence of what that's all about. Why do we all like to be at these types of places? Because we have that sense of creativity with us, and this hotel is supposedly going to be geared towards helping people do that kind of thing.
And congratulations to the Geddes Group as the primary design firm that put together the prototype design.
Yeah, so I do want to talk about some of the elements that are going to be in there that I think are pretty cool. The first thing that they're doing is they're still going to be utilizing the front desk concept, right? A lot of these hotel brands are going out there saying, we don't need that. We're just going to do whatever, remote check-in, blah, blah, blah. They're going to be combining the bar, which could be served for coffee during the day, bar at night, DJ booth area and front desk into one. So theoretically, somebody could be mixing tunes and then come over and check you in. Interesting idea. Reinvents how people are purposed in a hotel. What do you think about it?
Well, one of the great things about select service is, Glenn, the economies of the staff and having staff that are cross-trained to do many different things inside of the hotel. I'm not sure I want somebody who's touching the keyboard mixing my drink, but at the same time, I get the concept and can't wait to see it come live. And it's got to be new and innovative. We've heard so much at the conference about the customer experience. We hear more and more of that every single year. It's less about the real estate deal and it's more about the customer experience. And I think that that's what came through to me on the Reverb.
I think so too. And another thing that they're going to be doing is they're going to have a social area, performance kind of an area. But again, think select service hotel, so it's very small and intimate. So you're not going to be seeing big acts. You're going to be seeing local performers, maybe even authors coming in and reading something. That sort of creative aspect. One cool thing that they're doing is they're going to be having what they call a sound booth. It's a quiet area that you could go and make a phone call from. So that's great. I could already picture going, yeah, hey, honey, I'm in my room for the night, you know?
Of course, with the select service brand, you know, there's a big difference today between trying to do 100 or 150 locations versus trying to do 500 to 600. So I wish them the best of success with that.
And the other most notable part of it is they're also going to be doing a WeWork co-work locating concept in there as well, also like Serendipity Labs. So that to me is really fascinating that they're going to try to get people actually working there throughout the day, which should help them make some money, but also activate that lobby throughout all day parts and help with that food and beverage sales. Very clever, very innovative, and I think other brands are going to be moving in that direction.
Well, I've said for a long time that select service hotels that do the meeting space and figure out how to host those smaller meetings of 3 to 4 to 7 people that are working for the same company, getting together for a couple of days, people that figure that out and how to capture more of that revenue are going to do it right.
Right.
Going forward.
Yeah, for sure. All right, next big announcement. Wyndham Hotels Group announced a new soft brand geared towards 3 and 4 star hotels, and it's going to be called Trademark.
Now, another collection brand, if you will,
Yes.
Glenn, that's not going to necessarily carry the Wyndham flag, but is going to leverage their reservation system to a unique hotel that will be more driven in the local centric kind of way in terms of the way it's designed, the way it feels. When you're in Nashville, you'll feel like you're in Nashville when you're in the hotel, and oh, by the way, it's part of the Wyndham branding.
Right. I think the next big trend is you're in Nashville, but you create a hotel that's like Miami. Then you go to Miami and you create a hotel that's in Nashville. What do you think about that? You want to invest?
Oh my gosh, that just blew my mind, Glenn. Mind blown. Did you drop the mic on that?
I would, but I don't really have the budget for these new high quality microphones just yet.
But that's an interesting concept. You know, at the peak of the cycle, as I've said to you, Glenn, in a lot of cases, you get a lot of new announcements. Not everything makes, and it seems like, we're rolling along. We'll go for another half an hour here on all the new news.
Oh, yeah, we certainly should. Let's move on to the next one. Red Line Hotels Corporation had bought Vantage Hospitality last year, and as part of that deal, they were trying to figure out what to do with the Signature Inn brands. Last night was the coming out party for them with a brand new retro-focused concept. Bring back that 60s and 70s kind of life to those roadside motels. Yeah,
and we in kind of enjoying that last night, I get the concept. Certainly, as we had so much building of hotels in the 80s and even into the early 90s, many of these hotels are not really of the standard to be, upscale or upper mid-scale hotels anymore. And as they, when mid-scale or select service hotels tend to reach the age of 30, oftentimes they're ready to be, quote, reset in what they will be in their next life.
Right.
Okay, and the buildings that we built in the 80s and the 90s are certainly more efficient than anything we built in the 50s and the 60s. So the buildings are still good. It's just kind of trying to remake the concept into something a little bit more cool. And I certainly enjoyed the lemon drops and the double bubble and the pixie sticks.
Oh, that's right. The party they had last night at the last night as of recording this was at Lucky Strike Lanes on the west side of town. Retro theme. I got to enjoy some candy cigarettes. I got to enjoy some Tootsie Rolls and walked out with a couple pair of wax lips. So I feel like my trip's complete.
Absolutely. And I got my Etch-a-Sketches.
Oh, yes. So. Mini Etch-a-Sketches and Mad Lib books, too.
Yeah. So it's a unique kind of retro feel, and certainly that's different than anybody else is doing, and again, we have another that's different, as you all may be familiar with Extended Stay America and how that brand was built and beginning in the 90s, then owned by Blockbuster chairman Wayne Huizenga, and then it went public, and now it's moved on considerably, but 628 locations. They announced yesterday they're going to begin to franchise that brand.
Which was news to me because we knew about that 6 months ago.
That's right, but now it is officially official.
Yep.
And so Extended Stay America, great product in the economy extended stay space that will now look to, you'll be able to franchise that brand anywhere in the United States you want to go.
Right. And that's pretty cool, and I think they're going to have a lot of luck. My understanding is with from behind the scenes conversations I had, I think they're even looking to sell a good chunk of those hotels.
Sure, yes, you can sell and take a franchise agreement on some of those properties. They do have a number of them available for sale. But the other unique concept, Glenn, there is that they completed the renovation over the past 5 years of the entire 628 property portfolio.
Wow.
Which I think was, to bring them up to a new standard as they move towards what's going to be a new prototype. They're going to, I think, go in the ground on for the first time at the end of this year. So that should be pretty exciting.
Yeah, I love when they design new prototypes and stuff, but I always feel like it causes a schism in the brand, because then you got a few hotels that look this way and then the rest that look the other way, and it's not something that you can do any other way. But I always find it's got to be tough for those guys.
Well, I think when you're working with 400 square feet and you're trying to put a kitchen and you're trying to put a workspace and you're trying to put a sleep space in there, I think as furniture evolves and I think as modern technology evolves, you can do more with less. And that's much of what I saw from the new prototype, was really kind of try to economize the space a little bit better than they had before, with some options. You have an option. The room be designed with kind of a 2-bed bay, if you will, but then being able to switch it out, if you will,
right,
and kind of run some rooms without the bed, some rooms with the bed, and it's a different kind of thing.
Right.
So I thought it interesting. And then, I guess some of the big guys kind of said, well, maybe we're not going to announce because there's so much clutter.
Right.
We had
heard rumors both IHG and Hilton were supposed to announce new concepts, but I guess they're going to be holding off for a little while.
Well, of course, Hilton has done plenty of new concepts each of the last 2 years. At the beginning of the year, they did a new concept in True, and they have a new concept in Tapestry. Mm-hmm. True is now 16 months and well over 200 signed agreements in the pipeline.
First one opened last month.
Yes, in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. And then they did Tapestry this year, which is another collection brand, but a mid-scale collection brand. So really, Glenn, it brings up an interesting conversation about boutique and collection brand and lifestyle, and how do you categorize all that. And I can tell you that I've talked to a number of people about it, and I think just like we have 3 tiers of extended stay that aren't necessarily the primary chain scales, it seems that we'll begin tiering boutique, lifestyle, and collections pretty soon.
Yeah.
As they're all targeting different spaces.
Yeah, agreed. I think that makes a lot of sense. I sat through a design panel yesterday, and one of the things that they talked about was lifestyle hotels, and I applaud them for finally saying what I've been saying for years, that lifestyle hotels, for the most part, are not truly lifestyle hotels. They don't really achieve a particular lifestyle. They're just different than what traditional hotels were. One hotel that is a lifestyle hotel, Pat McBride, founder and CEO of the McBride Company, had a role in developing Margaritaville. Now, to me, as you know, I love the brand. I love what they're doing. I've had them on a couple of times, and that is a lifestyle hotel to me.
That's also a mindset, okay?
Yes.
Margaritaville and the Jimmy Buffett lifestyle, the Parrot Head lifestyle, that's a mindset, okay? And when you truly hit lifestyle, you have to create the mindset.
Right.
Okay? And I think there are a number of brands, Best Western Vibe being one of them, Glow being another, where, they're trying to change the common conception and to create better boutique and better lifestyle opportunities. And I think, there's going to be some to look at as I've spoken with them, and several properties under construction already in North America. So we'll be seeing some of those in the next 6 to 9 months.
Right. And of course, there was one more brand that was announced. It would be remiss for not mentioning it. The Trump Organization announced a new brand called American Image. And I was curious to see, with all of the politics that's happening out there, how are they going to put out a brand that is going to be successful? And I think that the point of view that they're taking is quite interesting by playing up the America card. So I didn't go to the event last night for a variety of reasons, but I did get a lot of reports on it, and people seem intrigued by the whole concept. What have you heard about the American Image brand, and what do you think it means to the overall state of the hospitality business?
Well, I think, what I heard about it was that the Trump Organization has not necessarily been into the roadside hospitality business.
No.
And they've
Super
been
high-end part of the market.
Yeah, in the urban centers, okay, high-rise hotels, and I think that this is their intent and entry to become more highway located, more middle America located. I would say that, for the most part, that's a solid concept when you're trying to build out your brands. I'm not sure what the success rate will be. I didn't myself personally speak with any developers that were, jumping up and down saying I need to do that. So I didn't have that experience. But they announced another brand last year, Glenn, with the Scion brand that they're also trying to develop as well. So they're really kind of now going luxury, upscale, mid-scale.
Which is obviously the only way you can go if you're already at the top of the market. Now, I do not know what's going to happen with the American Image brand. I do not know if politics will affect it positively or negatively. I think an argument could be made on both sides that it would affect it either positively or negatively. On the negative side, yeah, there's plenty to talk about there. On the positive side, I think that they understand who their core audience is, and without knowing a lot about the details of the brand, I think it seems to me that the brand is playing into that same sort of energy that they've been trying to tap into that got the president elected.
Specifically, I would say that I know no better than that, Glenn.
Yeah.
But to say that would be an obvious angle of approach for sure.
I think that would be the one angle you could take to be a winner.
So what was the other news, Glenn? I certainly talked to a number of people who were actively seeking new employment opportunities. There were certainly plenty of people that were kind of thinking career change as the industry moves along. We don't work at the same place forever in many cases.
Right.
But there were some other interesting aspects that I thought. As I said before, seems like we're talking about the customer a lot more at this NYU conference than I can remember for quite a number of years. I think that's probably cyclically common. As you know, we have had an 8-year operating performance run that everybody wants to know when's it going to end. And I think for the first 5 months...
What inning are we in, Bruce?
Well, for the first 5 months of this year, I think many people would say the results are better than expected, okay, for the first 5 months of this year. And I would concur with that. However, some people did decelerate their RevPAR forecast for this year down a little bit in the 2 to 3 range this year and maybe back up to the 3 to 4 range next year. But I think the first 5 months have done well. And I think people who have disposable income are spending it in the United States. So I think summer travel should be good this year.
Summer travel is expected to be great. I believe just at the Best Western Leisure Travel Summit a few weeks back, I talked about it on one of these podcasts. I want to say it's expected to be up 7%. Please do not take that as a fact. That's just my fading memory. I don't have the number in front of me, but check back to that show. But my understanding is travel this summer is going gangbusters for sure.
And, of course, that's been one of the biggest surprises of our operating performance run, Glenn, is that demand has been so strong. It's not that we haven't opened any hotels, because we have, and we will open more hotels this year than we did last year, and we will open more hotels next year than we did this year, and probably one more year past that before the pipeline begins to simmer down, brother.
Simmer down.
Okay. But there are new hotel openings, and if brands are going to continue to be announced, developers are going to continue to be interested. If there continues to be new construction lending, developers are going to continue to be interested. And just some stats from our 1Q close here at Lodging Econometrics, some of the things that we saw out there in the markets. We do have 5 of the top 50 markets in the United States now have more than 100 projects. That's not a new number, but that continues to be maintained. We have 11 projects or 11 markets that will open more than 2,000 guest rooms this year. And those markets are defined as market areas smaller than MSAs where cluster together the hotels. So Nashville and its surrounding markets, New York and the 5 boroughs, if you will. And then there are 14 markets that have more than 2,000 rooms that are scheduled to open in 2018. So those are some compelling numbers, Glenn. And of course, if you're interested in any of the project details, Lodging Econometrics tracks all of those projects. And you can contact me directly, Bruce at lodgingeconometrics.com. I'm happy to facilitate any of that information that might be compelling for your business. Okay, but I think, the one stat that I talked to a number of people about is that the average size of the hotel development today in this cycle versus the last cycle 10 years ago is that the average size of the hotel is 20 rooms smaller than it was in the last cycle. And that's a direct result of more upscale and more upper mid-scale property development. We're opening, globally branded hotels at 92 guest rooms here in the United States. The average size is 108 rooms, by the way, if anybody was curious about that. But we're within 500 projects of the last cycle peak, but we're still 170,000 rooms behind the last cycle peak. So that'll give you kind of some of the scale and difference, if you will.
Right. Interesting. All right. So I want to talk about one more big issue, right? I'd be remiss if we didn't talk about that travel ban stuff that's going on again this week. As we're recording this show, it looks like the president is taking this case to the Supreme Court, and they're going to be deciding on whether or not the travel ban executive order is legit or a no-go. Regardless of what you think about the ban, I think Mr. Trump taking to Twitter this week to call it a travel ban when that was the reason why it didn't pass the first couple of times may not have been the right strategy to take. But the issue that we're most concerned about is the perceived travel ban and the perception of America not being open to visitors. Is that actually affecting inbound travel? Now, we've reported in the past that articles have said that it's going to screw travel. I've gotten yelled at by folks saying that there's no way. So I wanted to go and put a little of my journalism hat on and investigate this a little bit more. So
dun, dun, dun.
I know. So we had the opportunity to speak to some CEOs. Dara Khosrowshahi. I'm always terrible at pronouncing that name. He is the president and chief executive officer of Expedia, and he said that he is not seeing a clear impact overall at this point. But at some point, issues such as Mexicans coming to the United States, he's concerned about that. And obviously the Middle Easterners coming to the United States is already an issue that's dropping out. He says most significant factor is indeed right now the currency issue because of that. The dollar is getting weaker, though, which should create a tailwind coming in. But he cannot say if there's a direct effect with any travel ban or perception to travel to the United States that's affecting it. He did see a lot of outbound travel going to the UK because the pound was depreciating, especially from here in America. Interesting point of view, not necessarily one shared by some of the other CEOs, but what did you feel about that?
Well, I would agree that there are probably 3 or 4 factors. I believe I did report to you, Glenn, the last time we were on the podcast together that there was the first statistic out about the first 3 months of this year that international arrivals were down 17% coming into the United States. There are a number of factors. That's not all ugly America. That's the dollar is strong. That is, some travel ban. Okay. But that's also, the euro is, it's never been more expensive to come to America, probably in the past 25 or 30 years. Okay. So, and that's all the way around. That's not one particular currency having a problem. So, people can make it political if they'd like, but, the dollar did bubble up pretty heavy once the election was set, if you will. So that didn't have a direct effect because we're still seeing room night demand continue to go up and continue to trend in the way it was.
Right.
Plus 3%. So, that's a little mystifying, but I think from the travel ban perspective, with all due respect to the president, he really does want to project a different image about extremism out there. And much of what he's trying to do, is to create a whirlwind around people who support that, And he's extremely verbose in his praise of what the other Gulf nations did yesterday, which was basically box Qatar in and say, no one's coming here from there. And that was, the president is attempting to take some credit for that for his trip to Saudi Arabia,
right?
Which is what he tried to push while he was there.
That's very unusual. The president trying to take credit for stuff,
quite frankly, I can't, sit here and say that doesn't make some sense to me, okay? Because it does, okay? But obviously the purpose versus the delivery is kind of some of the issue that we have with the current regime.
Exactly. I mean, I think I could probably get behind some of these things if they were presented in a way that made sense to the rational side of my brain, not the frightened, suspicious native side of my brain.
And what is the travel ban? If in fact they say no laptops in the cabin between anywhere in the United States, I mean, that's going to cause a huge problem.
Well, hopefully that's not going to happen.
Is that the right thing to do? I don't know. But I know that we've had laptop bombs in the past, okay? But legitimately, Glenn, if it's a laptop bomb, does it matter if it's in the cabin or if it's in the belly of the aircraft? It's still going to have the same effect, right?
I don't understand the distinction. Now, I do want to go back. We've kind of drifted away from this quote unquote travel brand for a minute. Now, Jonathan Tisch, chairman and CEO of Loews Hotels, and he's also co-chairman of the board and member of the office of the president of Loews Corporation. A lot of titles. I could read his title all day long, but he's a huge supporter of the hospitality travel industry in general. And I hope to get him on the microphone the next few weeks. I've been working on that now for 6-8 months, trying to get him on, and it looks like I'm getting closer to there. Now, he is very big in the group business with Loews Hotel. In particular, in Orlando, they've got 6 properties there. I understand they're going to be announcing another one soon enough, and they're doing great group business with their 6,000 rooms down there. Now, he says they've seen groups cancel because of an attendee, for example, was from a travel ban country, and they didn't want to risk any sort of interruptions. And he said, in his experience, there is certainly anecdotal evidence the perception of what's happening with the travel ban is indeed having a negative impact on the business. Directly opposite of what Mr. Khosrowshahi said over at Expedia, but he acknowledges he's more leisure-focused, and Tisch is focusing more on that business group travel side of the business. So it looks like there might be a little of nothing happening and a little of something happening at the same time.
It's still really hard to measure, though.
Very hard to measure.
I mean, they're just a lot of these things need tailwind and time, okay?
Yeah.
And I think, when we get to the end of the summertime and where we're able to do a little bit more separation between leisure and business, I think we'll have more statistics to share. Suffice it to say, though, there's a number of things you can add up about why people might choose to go somewhere else for their vacation this year than come to the United States.
Certainly, and if I was a European, I might want to just sit on the sidelines before coming to the United States for another year or two.
But then let's talk about the converse, Glenn, the terrorism that's happening in Western Europe. I mean, do you want to go to London right now? Do you want to go to Paris right now?
No, and people don't want to go to London, and they don't want to go to Paris right now. And Sebastian Bazin, he's the chairman and chief executive officer of Accor Hotels. We were talking about him before. He said that places like Spain are a big winner right now because people have stopped going to Turkey. They've stopped going to France in a way, although that's coming back. But they're going to places like Spain to make up for it.
I mean, it's the type of extremism that we're seeing now is not – it's coming in different forms. I mean, people just driving cars into crowds. I mean, that's scary on its own. I mean, because when you think about being a leisure traveler in those places, you want to go to the Borough Market in London, and that's freaking scary. I got to admit it, And at the end of the day, that's going to have an impact on what you decide to do with those discretionary dollars and your discretionary time.
That being said, come 2 years from now, I think a lot of Europeans will be lining up for Star Wars Land in Orlando and Anaheim.
Oh, hell yeah, Glenn. Okay. I'm stacking up my DVC points as tall as this room. Okay. Yeah. And I've got it figured out that I think if it all comes down correctly, I might be able to do 12 to 14 nights in a 2-bedroom, 2-bath DVC condo for the opening of Star Wars Land. And Glenn, you're obviously invited.
Oh, well, that's I really appreciate that. And I look forward to being there. And, hey, I think we should record a show from the Millennium Falcon ride.
Oh, You betcha.
Anything else that you want to wrap up with today, Bruce?
Oh, it's just it's good to see you again, Glenn. I assume we'll see each other again in a couple of weeks out in Los Angeles potentially.
Yep.
And if you're looking for more information on hospitality real estate information, Lodging Econometric on Twitter. Of course, we're on LinkedIn. You can follow me, BFINNH on Twitter. And, of course, if I can be helpful in any way, Bruce at lodgingeconometrics.com.
Great. And I want to thank you all for listening. And please do me a favor. I know I always tell you to give me the 5 stars on iTunes. Please do that. And also, more importantly, share this show with your friends, with your colleagues. We've got great momentum here after 1 full year, and I'm looking forward to a lot more good stuff coming up as we continue with the No Vacancy podcast. Soon we'll have some videos soon enough, the next couple of months. Get a whole website going up and running, and it's going to be absolutely fantastic, and I look forward to all the continued support from you guys, and thank you so much for your paying attention. Oh, and find me on patreon.com should you want to donate a few bucks to keep this ship sailing.
Thanks a lot, Glenn. Have a great summer. See you in a few weeks.
All right, see you in a few weeks out in La La Land, and I'll see you guys next week or right after the other side of this commercial break, more likely. Talk to you guys soon. Bye.
Have a question for your host, Glenn? Tweet him now at Traveling Glenn. No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's #1 podcast. We'll be right back.
Hey everybody, Glenn here. And if you're like me, then I know that you love terrific art. Art that creates a sense of place. Art that tells a story of where you are. Art that adds a level of detail that you can't get anywhere else. And great folks that do this, Kevin Barry Fine Art Associates. You can find them online at kevinbarryfineart.com, and I highly encourage that you check them out. One recent project that I'm totally in love with is the Fairmont, Washington, D.C., where they created a custom project with a local artist, and they created some of this on site. They actually created a multi-dimensional wall sculpture from gold blocks, which is an abstracted map grid of the Washington, D.C. area. It's got different elevations to it and looks absolutely fantastic. It was done along with Deborah Forrest and Amanda Jackson of Forrest Perkins, which is now Perkins Eastman. And they all work together to create this fabulous new look. So if you want to create a fabulous new look for your hotel, or if you just love great art, check out kevinbarryfineart.com or give him a call at 310-945-2655. Let him know Glenn sent you.
Back to the show. It's No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's #1 podcast with your host, Glenn Hausman.
You guys know. I'm not so good at it. So NYU Hospitality Conference, we're here. It's a icky, rainy day in New York, and I got to be honest with you, I'm getting a little angry here because I don't think we've had a spring at all, and it's kind of bumming me out, Jay.
You know, me too a little bit, and I usually don't care much about the weather. I'm working most of the time, but the only good thing, it's been good for my lawn.
Yeah. Yes, my lawn is really green and plush, and I like that, and I get to enjoy it from inside my house because it's always such bad weather. But I should say we're here with Jay Stein of Dream Hotels, and you know, I feel like I've been trying to get this together with you now for quite some time. For all you listening out there, a little insight on how all of these things work. It takes sometimes. These interviews just kind of pop up. Sometimes it takes a little massaging. I think we started talking about this, I think probably back last fall, and then we met in Berlin this year, and glad to see it's finally happening, and I've got you on the microphone, and hopefully I won't embarrass you too much.
No, I'm ready for it. Good to be here.
Excellent. So, you guys seem to have been unshackled in the last couple of years, I would say. At first, and this goes back to before you came on board. I felt like the company was trying to figure itself out for a really long time, went through a lot of machinations, almost felt like maybe the company's hands were tied behind its back, right? But since you came aboard, I've seen a big cultural shift. I've seen a lot of deals coming through, and just an overall big change. What changed when you came aboard?
Well, first, I've got to clear it. It's not that I came aboard. I've been with the group for over 20 years.
Right.
And
I should say your leadership. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so and it's not even so much my leadership. That hasn't changed all that much. I've been a key part, obviously.
Yeah.
I've been the CEO for almost 20 years in the group and became the CEO about a year and a half ago. But really what's changed is the direction and how we wanted to move the company forward has changed. And by doing that, under our chairman's leadership, Son Chatwell, and mine, everybody's focus changed. And that's really where the shackles came off.
Right.
So we went from an ownership company, and everything we owned, we managed. Everything we managed, we owned. And we built our own hotels for 20-something years. And it was great. I mean, I look back year over year, it looked like we got nothing done. When I look back in 5 and 10 year increments, I was impressed.
Yeah, right.
You know, we were a small company, but we owned it and we were doing it. But as we were getting older and we were looking at how do we move the company forward.
I'd argue you're getting younger.
Yeah. We decided that we were going to change the philosophy and we were going to start to become a management and brand company. We had 4 brands that we were going to look to bring out to the marketplace. Dream being the most famous of the 4, Time, Unscripted, and Chatwell being the other 3. And then we also changed the name of the company at that time from Hampshire Hotels and Resorts, from Hampshire Management Corporation, and then we brought it to Dream Hotel Group. And we took the value of the most known brand that we had, put that as the parent name, Dream Hotel Group, and now 4 brands underneath. And now we started to grow as a management and branding company, which, if we were able to find deals, was a lot quicker to be able to get 5-10 deals done in a year's time, as opposed to building them, which took one hotel every 3 to 5 years to get done. So it was a very different philosophy.
Yeah, because it seemed like you were out there, you were at all the events, but I didn't see a lot happening. And now, boom, you've been in this for a year and a half, and holy cow, 9 deals signed in the last 6 months. That's pretty cool stuff. You must be pretty proud of yourself and your team.
Yeah, and we had about, I think, 6 in the 6 months before that. So about 15 deals in the last year and couple of months that we've announced. We've built up our business development team at significant levels. We have a team based in Asia, at Bangkok, Morocco, London, New York City, Atlanta, Miami, Austin, and L.A. So we've got a fairly big team out there looking for opportunities and scouring the markets throughout the globe where our brands will make sense, with potential development partners that are looking to build hotels in their individual markets, and then we see if it makes sense for one of our brands to be there. We're not looking to franchise yet, so we're managing all of these, and we probably never will franchise 3 of the 4 brands, perhaps Unscripted.
Yeah,
we may look at that down the road.
And we'll get more into detail on the Unscripted brand too, because that's the newest one that's coming up. But I find it interesting, before we get into the brand specific stuff, how do you go from a company that was in one mode to all of a sudden trying to compete on a global level? That's an awful big responsibility.
Yeah, and I guess we're finding our way. We don't have enough money to spend everything you would need to do. But we do have an owner that's very serious about this and a big risk taker. And he's happy with the results that we're seeing. We'll start to see some more of the revenues flow in as the fee streams become, hotels open and the fee streams come in quicker. We're making fees now through some of our technical service agreements and some of our legacy properties, obviously. But yeah, it was a commitment to build a new team. So we had to create a team that would be large enough to manage these new deals that were coming on. And, our owner, he was an entrepreneur. He still is an entrepreneur. Right. So I had to convince him that we were going to make money by making other people a lot of money, which is not really in his DNA. But if you're going to be a management company, you're not going to just make money for yourself. You're going to make other people wealthy. Otherwise, you're not good at what you're doing.
Yeah,
so he got comfortable with that, and now he's fully on board. That's the way for him, for any developer we're working with to recommend us or to stay happy with us means we're doing a good job, which means they're making money.
Yeah.
And we get a small part of it, but a small part of 50 deals, and then hopefully 100 deals and plus.
Then all of a sudden you're retiring somewhere really nice.
It's not on the plans yet.
That's kind of how I see it. Well, if I were to retire today, I would have enough to get me through, I think, till late afternoon. So, hopefully you're doing a little bit better than that. But what I find interesting is you only have a handful of hotels, relatively speaking, when you look at all the giant companies that are out there now. But the brand equity seems to be outsized compared to the properties you have. And I think that that's something that you've all really excelled at. As now you've got the name and you've spent a lot of time building that equity, and I bet now that you change your philosophy, it's been a lot easier to try to land those deals.
Yeah, and it comes by the commitment to building real flagships of the brands that we're trying to promote. So the Dream Downtown is known as one of the top lifestyle boutique hotels, certainly in the country and in the world.
Absolutely, and you guys I would say are responsible and at fault now for everyone having a rooftop bar.
You know, we don't get the credit, but we really did start.
You really did.
We started in 2003 at the Ava Lounge on top of the original Dream on 55th Street. There were other rooftop bars, but none that had the velvet rope and the hipster kind of feel, and we were the first ones that created that. We don't get the credit, but
well, I'm giving you credit right now because I was part of it. I experienced it. I've had a couple of cocktails at it, and I know that place was great. And then the downtown, when that first opened, was the most spectacular rooftop experience I'd ever seen up until that point.
And that first opened, we went from about $16 million a year. We're now up to about $20 million. So the revenues have kept going in PhD downtown. And the Highlight Room, which is our rooftop bar at the Dream in Hollywood, will open in about 3 weeks. And we have 6,000 square foot rooftop in Manhattan. We have a 12,000 square foot rooftop in Hollywood. Woo. So we expect to see phenomenal numbers there.
Yeah,
as well.
and that LA property, I almost look at it as like a "hey, we've arrived" kind of move. Sure, you're here in New York, and New York is where you want to be, but I think that LA property is sending a very specific message to the hospitality community, especially you're in downtown Hollywood, right? Yeah,
in Hollywood.
Yeah,
and it opens up the West Coast for us, for the developers, whether it's in Seattle, Portland, San Diego, and even other western parts in Vegas and Denver, and a much shorter ride to come and see it. And also for Asia. Yeah. So I think it opens up the Asia markets quickly too to come to LA and see the project. It'll be an amazing hotel. Certainly will equal our flagship here in New York, and we think it'll be a game changer and will help us come to you and be able to announce the next 9 hotels, and that'll certainly be a part of the process that helps us get there quicker.
Yeah. No, like the Dream Hotel is pretty cool, pretty awesome, but you're also focusing on the unscripted hotels, which is a different type of concept. A lot of folks, since you're just launching this, probably don't understand that concept a little well. In your own world, in your own words, what is it all about to you, and why should we all care about it?
Well, for the industry people and using industry terms, this property will sit in the upscale and upper upscale level, depending on the developer that we're working in and the location that it's in. So Dream and Time are also in the upper upscale. The difference between those two, basically, they're both lifestyle, they're both hip properties. Dream requires more significant food and beverage, more nightlife than a Time would. So where does Unscripted fit in? Again, in that upper upscale, could go into the upscale, but it also will work in secondary markets. So we're opening the first one in Durham, North Carolina, in next month in July. And the other brands really don't make sense in the secondary markets. So that's where Unscripted gives us the opportunity. We're not looking to mid-scale. We're not looking to in the economy level. Everything is upscale and above. Right. But Unscripted gives us the opportunity to go into secondary markets, which the other brands didn't work for.
So Unscripted, to me, that's telling me that I'm going to kind of write my own experience. Is that kind of what you're shooting for?
Not really. We don't believe in brand standards, but we believe very much in brand essences. And that's true for all our brands. We work with a lot of different designers. We recommend designers, interior designers, to work with local developers. And each property will take on a unique feel. Our goal is to make every hotel that we manage with our brand on it to be the most fun, most exciting hotel in the market that it's in. And that's the formula, that we don't bring the formula from some other hotel and say, here's what's going to work because it worked here.
Right. And I think that's a fool's errand in a way. The essence is what you're talking about. And to me, that's what it's all about, because we don't remember things as much as we remember how something makes us feel, right? And I always, lately I've come to be saying, you're not going to go back to a hotel because they had a great lamp or, whatever. You're going to go because it made you feel good. It made you feel a sense of excitement, something different, and something that emotionally connects you to the neighborhood you're in. And that's going to be interesting to see how you're doing a property in Durham, North Carolina, and then the one that's opening up in the falls in Coco Bay, Da Nang in Vietnam. So how do you create the essence of the Unscripted brand in such varied locations?
So we've taken our culture that we've been working on for 20 years. And
right.
We started Lifestyle Hotels in 1999. We opened the Time Hotel in New York. We started building it in 1997. So we've been doing this for almost 20 years already. And the culture that we bring as being one of the early lifestyle operators, we've trained our GMs internally. They take that style and then bring it through all the different department heads and down through the employees. So to do that in Asia is a little difficult for us.
Right.
But we're bringing those employees over here, spending time with our team here, and then going back to their markets. We also have a full management team based in Bangkok with many counterparts from our New York team. They'll report back into the New York team from the Asia team. So we've got revenue management, and we've got global sales, and we've got technical service advisors, as well as VP of Ops and a managing director based in Asia that report back to their counterparts here in New York. So yeah, that's kind of a whole separate team there. But I can't really give you that answer. We're finding our way as we go.
I get it.
But we know we've opened hotels, far away from here. We've opened hotels in India before. So it's not the first time. And opening up LA is a 6-hour flight away. So
it's true.
But yeah, these are different countries. We learned, and we opened in Bangkok in 2006. So we learned some of the mistakes of assuming, everything in a market that's very different.
Right.
But we still have a lot to learn. But I think our brands will speak well to the Asian traveler that's looking for something fun, exciting, and our type of hotels that have become social hubs for the communities that they're in is something new in the Asian market, and I think they'll be very excited to be part of what we're doing here in the U.S.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I love the whole notion of the social hub thing. Something here that I think a lot of the brands talk about but don't necessarily excel about. I feel like a lot of the big boys out there, you get a lot of lip service about how they're going to be hyper local and get the whole community to come by and hang out all the time, and the food and beverage sales are going to be there. But it's almost kind of like the same kind of package reintroduced over and over. But you've had much better ability to connect with that local community beyond those rooftop bars, with that sense of cool and hip. So how does that translate to this brand?
We do it to the point where often I will say the person that I care least about in terms of what they want to see in our public areas is the guest staying in our guest room. Which sounds harsh, but I know for us to be successful, we need the local community to want to hang out, use our facilities for drinking, for nightlife, for meals. Right. And then I've never seen a hotel guest come downstairs, see it packed with good-looking local people having fun and saying, this is not what I want.
Right.
So,
Well, honestly, I feel a little intimidated by all the good-looking people, so I run back up to my room and hide. But truthfully, I think you're onto something, and I don't think it's harsh to say that they are the one that you care least about. Obviously, you're a little tongue-in-cheek on that, right? But the real profits are getting the food and beverage sales and creating that sense of excitement downstairs or up on the roof.
And we don't come into a market we don't know on day one, give a pro forma and tell an owner, here's what we're going to do. We tell them, we can give you a pro forma, but it's just a placeholder right now. We need to study your market. It's going to take probably 3 to 6 months before we would make a determination on what should be in there. And again, making that decision, very little do we use the hotel guest needs as part of that decision maker. Their needs are basically, can I get some breakfast, and is there a place to get a cocktail?
Right.
And I've met their basic needs.
Yeah.
So that's really not my main concern.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think we are overthinking this too much 100%. As an industry. And I think it's making us sometimes make some poor decisions, right?
For years.
Yeah.
Decades.
Yeah. Right. And now, one of the things that I find most interesting, maybe you could give me a little insight onto this, is how everybody wants to be completely different now, but they're all completely different in exactly the same way. How do you avoid that trap?
You know, it's one thing trying to be authentic, but I think you need to tap into an area about really in that area what they're really proud of.
Right.
And some of the culture that may not be the most obvious thing. Whereas it's easy to just take the obvious thing from somewhere and say, hey, we're authentic because we're talking about their famous landmark or something. But that's not, what people from that area really care about. So we try to find out what those real things are, what really was, cool about this area, what was, or negative, but it's their history, and understand it and use it within the design, use it within the concepts, use it within the narrative of how do we figure out what to do here. And again, it's usually not the obvious thing that's the right answer.
Right. I'm thinking for the LA property, maybe you do Health Foods and Plastic Surgery Center. That would fit in really perfect with there. Hey, you're an actress. You're 27. You're over the hill now. Let's get you back to 22. Right. What are some of your goals now overall for the future, both professionally and personally?
Well, professionally, we still have a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
We put these teams together. I think on the business development side, I think we're in pretty good shape. And as long as these guys do their job, they'll stay on. And it's anything to do with sales is tough. You could work really hard, but if you don't get the results, sorry.
Yeah, which makes me think I totally skipped over this, but I got to talk to you about the Dream Nashville. What is going on in Nashville? In the last few years, it seems like all of a sudden everybody on the planet discovered the city.
Well, it was either Nashville or Austin, so one or the other.
Oh yeah, well that place is pretty cool too.
And we'll be in both.
I would hope so.
But again, I don't think even in Nashville, they have a couple of lifestyle hotels. I don't think it'll be anything like what we're doing there. And the cool thing about this Dream, and again, I told you we don't bring formulas. This will be the first Dream that doesn't have a rooftop bar and doesn't have a pool.
Interesting.
We still think we're going to do things that are going to be quite unique and quite authentic to Austin, but again, not in the obvious ways.
Every single one of those secrets you're going to tell me right now.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna edit
but I'm
that.
I'm going to tell them to you in Russian.
Yeah, right. Excellent. So, hey, welcome back. I just cut out all the most amazing stuff that you're not going to believe what's going to be happening in fall of 2018. Check back, listen on this, but I'm going to suspect that whatever it is, you guys are going to try to sell some more cocktails.
But we were talking about what we were doing going forward. So the development team, we've worked very hard on over the last year or so, putting that team together. And we've added in some of the elements on our management team, but we still have some holes as we continue to grow and start to open more hotels. So a couple of key positions in the corporate office we're looking to fill over the next few months. We've brought in some great new software tools from revenue management, made a big commitment with Duetto to be in all of our properties, and we're thrilled to be working with them. TravelClick and Sabre have been our partners on our consumer-facing websites with TravelClick, and working with Sabre, the Synexis for our booking engine. We're also going to be announcing our new CRM tool that we're going to be working with, which will offer a lot of new services that we could will help us analyze and then provide that guests are really looking for.
So let's talk about that a little bit. We got to get to know the guest these days, right? It seems like there's two things happening. The hotels are realizing they can make better emotional connections with the guests, which will increase loyalty. And on the guest side, it seems like everybody wants to be treated like they're the only one on the planet. Maybe this is because we gave everybody participation trophies since the 1970s. I don't know what it is, but everybody wants to feel that this is an experience that's crafted just for them. So how is this new technology going to help you really focus on those guest needs and enhance their experience there?
So I don't see it as tough as you said, and I'm sure you're saying it a little tongue in cheek.
Yeah, I am.
But I think some of it is a little overblown. But I think it is important to know trends. I think it's important to be able to market back to guests in a smart, intelligent way. There's nothing worse than getting an email and then getting the same email the next day from another one of your properties when they said, "Don't you know you sent that to me yesterday?" So we don't have the ability to know all those things now because we don't have the right tools in, and it's expensive. It's a big decision. So we're making that commitment now and should be up and running probably in about 3 to 4 months. So I think from a marketing perspective, it's phenomenal information.
Yeah.
I think from knowing whether you like a soft pillow or a hard pillow, I think some of those things maybe get a little overblown. And we haven't made all the determinations, and I'm not the
Right.
expert in this area, but we've hired some consultants to work with us.
Well, I'm the expert. I like one hard pillow and 2 soft pillows. I'm glad we've solved this particular issue over there. But one of the things that I see that we're really starting to get into, and you're focusing on this, is it's not just about the guests being on the property. It's about understanding them, connecting with them before they decide to book a property, and all the way through after they leave the property. How are you approaching, and why do you think that you've got the winning formula there?
Well, again, this is new software that
Yeah.
we're employing. I'm not saying we do have the winning formula, but we're making a commitment
I'm
to
telling
it.
you do.
I think it's. I think guests love to know in advance
Right.
that we know they're coming. Understanding what their needs may be in advance. People may want to order things in advance.
Mm-hmm.
Their health and wellness needs. A lot of people want to know what they need when they come to the property. To be able to have, they want to do a yoga class, or they want to do some specific shopping if they're coming to a great city like New York or LA or Nashville. So a lot of these kind of concierge type tools, I think, will be very valuable to our guests.
I think that makes a whole lot of sense, and it's a great opportunity for you to, in 2 tracks, give them what they're looking for, and then upsell them on stuff that they didn't realize they needed.
Also, what time they're arriving.
Right.
Then they feel like we actually care.
Right.
They want to know what time we're coming. We work very hard to be able to know our guest name from the time they're on the curb. By the time they get to the front desk,
tough.
they're just amazed that the front desk person's calling them by name. Not hard things to do
No.
when you care. And this is the kind of culture we build in our property.
Yeah, and that gets me back to the overthinking things that we seem to do. We all really just want to be acknowledged and know that people care. It doesn't have to be a big thing. Just those little tiny details, I think, make huge differences when it comes to customers.
100%. And it comes even from the engineers, from the housekeepers, and we build that from day one into our training. That these are all our guests, and we try to hire hospitable people.
Good.
It's not always an easy thing to do, but often we notice the person could do the right skill, but they're just not hospitable at it.
Right.
And it's harder to teach someone that naturally, but to hire it when they have it is a lot easier. So
Yeah.
we try to do it in the hiring process as best we can.
And I've got to believe that the hiring process is becoming more difficult and more complex as the hospitality industry, and I don't just mean hotels, I mean all of the hospitality industry, restaurants and all of that, expanded so much that it's a smaller group of people that have that hospitality essence. So it must be really tough trying to find those right people and place them in the right position so they could grow.
It is, and it's even harder to find the managers.
Yeah.
My philosophy, I come up from the bottom, managing, operations and different departments in hotels, and I've always said 19 out of 20 employees would
Yep.
be great employees if they had great managers.
Right.
And that's really what we need to be able to find those great managers out there. They're not coming from the great hotel schools. I don't know one kid that graduated a good hotel school and was anxious to take a assistant, department head position and start their career. It's
Right.
just very, very rare these days. Like I came out of school and started that way. So you've got to go into different areas and look for people that don't know exactly what they want to do, and they have that sparkle in their eye, and we bring them in and we get them on their way.
And how do you kind of push those associates into doing things that might be outside their comfort zone, but is going to be better for them in the long run? Or it's something that they have to kind of initiate?
Yeah, that was my specialty. I'm not sure how I'm doing now with the stuff I do, but as a manager, a department head, and then eventually GM, that's really where my strong point was, and I try and breathe that through into my GMs and their staffs now. And I always told them, if you can get someone to do what you want them to do when you're there, that's really good management.
Right.
If you can get them to do what you want them to do when you're not there, that's great management. And the only way to do that is by getting a mutual respect. Yeah. And they respect that what I want them to do is important to me, and it's important to our operation, and they care about what's important to me, and
right.
because they know I care about what's important to them. and there really is a mutual respect. And as I said, 19 out of 20 of them will be great if we're good managers or great managers. So that's the mindset we use.
I love that. There's one more property that I want to talk about that's upcoming because it seems so really cool. Chotwell Lodge opening 2019.
Yeah,
up in the Catskills, man. I mean, you're a Jersey guy. I'm a New York guy.
I'm a New York guy.
Oh,
I live in New Jersey now, but I grew up in Queens. Yeah, that is a problem for me.
So I remember going up to the Catskills in the 1970s and seeing all those billboards, bring casinos here and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Now the market's really changed. I think we're in that post environment since there's a couple of casinos there. But Catskills, I think, has such an opportunity to go back to its glory days. Is that kind of what you were thinking? Where's the opportunity come to build a luxury resort now up there?
It's a unique property. We found it. It's called the Chapin Estates, and there's about 3,000 acres. And our chairman invested in the home sites, 400 home sites, about 170 are built, and they're multi-million-dollar homes, second homes from the tri-state area. And then we had the idea, if we took one of the homes that one of the partners before we got involved, who stayed on in the deal with us, he had an amazing home. And if we would take that home, make that the main building for the lodge, do all the food and beverage, health and wellness out of there, and then use all of his lakefront and build, villas around the lakefront, and add some additional land to it, maybe get up to about 50, 60 keys. Really special, very high end, in a rustic setting with unique fun, archery, skeet shooting, using the waterfront, snowmobiling, equestrian.
Nice.
Amazing farm to table concepts up there, working with some very high end chef. Probably Todd English will be involved with us on this project. And we thought to have something that's an hour and a half drive from the city at a very high end level. We were saying, probably in the $500 to $800 ADR, depending seasonally. So similar to what we've done with Chotwell in New York, that people will be really intrigued to, where can you go to do something really unique out in the middle of nowhere, but done at a very, very high level. And, the Hamptons takes you 4 hours to get there on the weekends in the summer.
Right.
And here you can get here in 90 minutes. So
I love that.
I think it's a great idea.
I think it's a great idea. I think it's going to be a total home run. We're starting to run out of time. We're at this conference, and I know you've got actual deals to go do, and you're probably getting tired of talking to this guy over here. But anyway, I do want to talk to you about music. You're in a band. You play regularly. How does that influence your life and your business world?
I try not to let the two mix because I never wanted anyone to think that I wasn't fully focused as I was coming up through my career. But I would often bring my guitar and hide it somewhere, and at 7 o'clock when I got off, I'd go to rehearsal, and then as time went on, I became the bigger boss, so nobody could say anything.
Right.
I guess I use it to prove to myself and my daughter and family that, we all get the same 24 hours. It's just what you choose to do with it.
Right.
Music has always been, I started playing when I was 10 years old. I'm going to be 61 the day after tomorrow.
Wow.
And music has always been something, really. I saw the Beatles play on Ed Sullivan for the first time in 1964.
Wow.
And I just knew that's what I wanted to do. So I played forever and played in bands and realized I probably wasn't going to make a living at it, but kept it going. And I play pretty much 2 times a month, maybe 3 times a month out live.
That's pretty cool.
Just played a gig in the Hamptons last Saturday night. And
4-hour drive?
Yeah, 4 hours there, only 2 coming back. But yeah, it's I think to have the creative thing when you're working really hard, it's great to have that release as well. I think it's also, as you get older, it's great to have your mind trying to memorize 50 songs a night. We typically do, and I guess I don't need to do Sudoku or whatever else you call that stuff. I do enough brain memory stuff.
Yeah. Keeps you sharp.
Yeah, and that's a great passion. So it's fun.
What and it's so cool that you're able to mix those two lives, and I bet it almost works as a sense of meditation for you. You get into it. You're not actively thinking about it. You've been playing long enough. You're kind of channeling it, right? So it gives your mind that chance to just kind of go off. And I bet after playing a gig, you come back with ideas on how to improve your business life too.
100%. It is so motivating. And as you said, you can't think of anything else. I was a I was basically a folk guitar player, strumming chords and trying to sing with it, but I had such a poor singing voice that it became so frustrating. So then I started playing.
I remember when it used to be Peter, Paul, Mary, and Jay.
Yeah, right. So I started to play lead guitar because that gave me a chance to be expressive, and it took forever to get good at it, but I finally got better at it. And so now to sing kind of through my fingers by playing solos gave me that ability to stand out front and not be able to sing, but at least still be a part of the attention of doing the solo there. So that was always fun, and yeah, as you say, it's really like a meditation. When I'm finished, I'm kind of drained. We play a 4-hour set.
Wow!
To see a bunch of
Bruce
people.
Springsteen or something like that, right?
We make a ton of money. Yeah, sure.
How far can you slide across the floor on your knees? Is what I want to know.
These days, I don't go on my knees anymore. I'll jump about 2 inches. All
right. So before we wrap up, is there any particular musician that really had more influence over you than anyone else in your life?
Probably the group, the band. Robbie Robertson, was the leader, great songwriter, and the thing I loved about that, it was 5 people in that band. They all played all different instruments. But if you listen to their songs, Up on Cripple Creek, The Night They Drove Old Dixie Down, those songs, if you listen, you hear each individual instrument on its own so clearly, and all doing different parts. But when you listen to it together, it all just sounds like an amazing song where so few bands were able to be that geniuses in their own right on each of their instruments and write parts that really weren't similar. But when you put it all together, they wrote just unbelievable music. So I would say the whole band was a great inspiration for me, and still is. But I love modern stuff. I mean, I'm listening to our band plays a lot of current stuff. Right. So we'll go from doing Janis Joplin tune to doing Sia, if you know who that is.
I do.
Okay, and
if I didn't, I pretend I did anyway for the sake of this conversation.
So we're all over the place. I'm not stuck in that classic rock was the only good stuff, though it was great and loved playing it. But we play a lot of current stuff and Foo Fighters and Chili Peppers and
Foo Fighters,
Rage Against the Machine and all types of stuff. Yeah. So we're all over.
Well, I got 13-year-old twin boys, and they're just getting into music right now. So I'm trying to send them down the direction that you've already been. All right, before we wrap up, any final thoughts, and then we'll let you do some shameless plugs.
Final thoughts. So I was saying before, we've got a lot of work to do still. I'm having a lot of fun at this point. I guess if I wasn't, I wouldn't be so thrilled to get up and drive through the Lincoln Tunnel and come into work every morning. But, I said earlier that when we used to look back year over year, we got nothing done, but in 5 and 10 year increments, looked like we got a lot done. It was exciting. But now when I stand up at our holiday parties every year, I tell people that now I look back year over year and I'm amazed at what we're getting done. So that's what's keeping me focused.
So how can people find you guys?
What's that?
How can people find you all?
How do they find us? DreamHotelGroup.com is the best way to find us.
All right. Awesome.
On the web.
Well, thank you so much, and thanks everybody for listening. I had such a great time talking to Jay, and it really inspired me over here, and I think I'm going to make some big changes in my life, so I'll be back next week. That is, unless I decide to form a band and start playing the rooftops at the Dream Hotel. Thanks for listening, guys. See you next week.
Thanks, Glenn.
Thanks so much for listening to No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's #1 podcast with your host, Glenn Hausman, online at rouse.media, on Twitter at Traveling Glenn, and on Facebook.com/Glenn.Hausman. We'll catch you next time.